Good morning, friends, and welcome to New Garden Friends Meeting. It is our practice here at New Garden Friends Meeting to extend a wide and warm welcome to everyone who joins us for worship. Whether you are joining us this morning on Zoom, or whether you are worshiping with us through Facebook Live, or whether you are watching the recording of this service that is posted to our website, you are welcome here at worship this morning. You are welcome here no matter your age or race, no matter your sexual orientation or your gender identity. You are welcome here no matter your politics or your abilities, your immigration status, no matter what language you spoke first, you are welcome here among friends. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here at New Garden Friends Meeting. Friends, this first day we have a special joy of welcoming a guest speaker this morning. Kathy Adams will be joining us and bringing the prepared message this morning. She will also be sharing a scripture reading with us this morning.
Thank you, Margaret. It's delightful to be with New Garden Friends this morning. This morning, I'm going to read from the message, the scripture from Numbers chapter 13, verses 26 through 33. They presented themselves before Moses and Aaron and the whole congregation of the people of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They reported to the whole congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And then they told the story of their trip. And I'll just remind you, this is when the spies went into Canaan, when the children of Israel were escaping from Egypt and were wandering in the wilderness. So this is what they reported. We went into the land to which you sent us, and oh, it does flow with milk and honey. Just look at this fruit. The only thing is that the people who live there are fierce. Their cities are huge and well fortified. Worse yet, we saw descendants of the giant Anak. Amalekites are spread out in the Negev. Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites hold the hill country, and the Canaanites are established on the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan. Caleb interrupted, called for silence before Moses, and said, "Let's go up and take the land now. We can do it." But the others said, "We can't attack those people. They're way stronger than we are." They spread scary rumors among the people of Israel. They said, "We scouted out the land from one end to the other. It's a land that swallows people whole. Everybody we saw was huge. Why, we even saw the Nephilim giants, the Anak giants, come from the Nephilim. Alongside them, we felt like grasshoppers. And they looked down on us as if we were grasshoppers."
Friends, as I said before, we have the special joy this first day of welcoming Kathy Adams as our guest speaker. Kathy is a lifelong member of the Religious Society of Friends, and she's currently a member of Jamestown Friends Meeting. As a retired middle school educator and a retired teacher educator, Kathy is passionate about creating equitable educational opportunities for everyone. Kathy is an Alternative to Violence AVP facilitator, and she is the coordinator of North Carolina AVP in the North Carolina Piedmont. Kathy has facilitated numerous AVP workshops in the community and also at the state prison in Taylorsville, North Carolina. She and Bill Adams have been married for 48 years, and they have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. We are just going to settle into a few moments of silence, and then Kathy will be sharing her prepared message this morning.
Thank you, Margaret. And I want to thank all of you for this opportunity to worship with you. New Garden Friends Meeting holds a very special place in my heart. I have not forgotten that during one of the most difficult times that my family ever experienced, Your community was supportive and offered us comfort and solace. Many of you may remember the events of the early 1990s when my dad, Willie Fry, took the controversial stand of supporting the LGBTQ plus community. You may remember that there was a movement among North Carolina Friends to revoke his recording as a Friends minister. New Garden Friends Meeting stood with him and encouraged him when so many other North Carolina Friends abandoned or villainized him. I have not forgotten your courage and your succor. So thank you. It's a delight to be among you again. This morning, I would like to share my thoughts about what the Society of Friends has to offer to our world as we move into an unknown future, the third decade of the 21st century. In the fall 2020 issue of Quaker Action, which is a publication of the American Friends Service Committee, General Secretary Joyce Adjlouni observed that after this past year, many of us are anxious to get back to normal life. After a year of COVID-19 restrictions, widespread protests, a contentious election, and attempts to overturn the election, many Americans crave a return to normalcy. However, Adjlouni points out, now is not the time for us to return to old ways. Now is the time for us to create a better future. She observes that the old days were not normal for many Americans, but they were grueling times. Adjlouni states, it should not be normal that some people have plenty while others struggle to find affordable housing and enough food to eat. It should not be normal that the color of your skin or your place of birth determines your access to health care, job opportunities, and your treatment by government and society. It should not be normal that our way of life is making our planet uninhabitable. So how will we, as members of the Society of Friends, work to create a better future? As we move into this new and unknown era with the new presidential administration, of course my telephone is ringing, and the rollout of vaccines that we hope will eradicate the coronavirus pandemic, it may be instructive for us to examine human history and how our ancestors answered the call to move into new and unfamiliar territory. So I read to you this morning from the book of Numbers. First of all, we know that in the book of Exodus, we can learn of the struggles of the children of Israel as they endured slavery in Egypt, and then their eventual liberation from the tyranny of the Egyptians. Then in the book of Numbers, we read of their misery as they wandered in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. From the scripture reading this morning, we discover that when the Israelites got about halfway to Canaan, and Moses sent 12 spies into the land to scope it out, only 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, came back to tell the people that the land was good and that God would give it to them. The other 10 spies, however, came back with frightening tales of giants in the land. They had no confidence that they could take the land. They believed that the forces protecting Canaan outmatched Israel. So, of course, the people weren't very happy to hear this, and they turned on Moses, and they refused to go into the new land to face the giants. And we know that they continued to wander in the wilderness. Then we can spring forward into the 17th century and the founding of America, and we can examine how Quakers responded to the movement into a new land. They didn't respond very well to the movement to abolish slavery. It took about 2 generations for Quakers to cleanse their membership from their participation in the institution of slavery. Some friends were owners while others were slave traders. In the September 2019 issue of Friends Journal, I read an article entitled Slavery in the Quaker World that was written by Catherine Gerbner. She stated that a very small minority of Quakers rejected slavery in the 17th century, but most did not. These early friends were afraid of giants in the land that they perceived might sow seeds of division in their meetings and might diminish their ability to prosper. They also feared that if they freed the people whom they had enslaved, the safety and well-being of the freed men and women of color could not be guaranteed. They were afraid of the giants in the land in an unknown future. So what are the giants in the land that we face in 2021? Ajlani mentioned several: income inequality, systemic racism, political and societal divisions, and the destruction of the earth. I can add mass incarceration, the school to prison pipeline, and inequity in educational opportunities. I am sure that you can add numerous other social issues that disturb you. So how will the Society of Friends enter this uncertain future and address these issues? What role will our faith play in facing the giants in the land of an unknown future? Over the last weeks, I have read a variety of articles, as I am sure you have, about the unknown future that we face in our country. Some pundits offer hope, while others paint a dismal picture of our nation's future, considering the divisive nature of our politics, expanding income inequality, threats to our planet, etc. In an opinion piece that I read in the Washington Post, this was back in October, I was interested to read an essay by Richard Just entitled, "How Religion Can Put Our Democracy Back Together." Richard Just quoted de Tocqueville, a French diplomat, historian, and political scientist who wrote 2 volumes on democracy in America. De Tocqueville believed that faith could exert a moderating force in democracy. Among other arguments, he's posited that though the law permits the American people to do everything, religion prevents them from engaging in egregious acts. Richard Just went on to say that because religion is fundamentally a mystery, it can be a profound source of analytical humility and existential uncertainty. It can teach us to value and even to celebrate contradictions, and to think constantly about how we might be wrong, which is an ethic that is the very opposite of what we currently observe in American politics and often in the practice of religion in America. So, what does our Quaker faith have to offer to our communities as we move into this unknown future? I will mention only a few aspects of our faith that I believe can speak to the needs in our society. I am sure that you will think of many others. First, I believe that our mode of worship offers a means of healing. One of my Quaker heroes is Caroline Stephen. Caroline was a convinced friend who lived from 1834 to 1909, and I have thoroughly enjoyed her writing. This is what she shared about her first experience in a Quaker meeting for worship. She said, "My whole soul was filled with the unutterable peace of the undisturbed opportunity for communion with God, with the sense that at last I had found a place where I might, without the faintest suspicion of insincerity, join with others in simply seeking his presence. To sit down in silence might open me, as it did that morning, to the very gates of heaven." The Society of Friends offers people the opportunity to commune directly with the Spirit. A central belief for Quakers is that each individual bears an inner light, a light within, or the seed of the Spirit, or whatever you'd like to call that. If we are to heal our nation from its profound divisions, we will need to honor that light as we listen to each other and seek reconciliation and forgiveness. As an Alternatives to Violence project facilitator, I can attest to the power of forgiveness when individuals truly honor that of God in the other. Another hallmark of Quakerism that can bring hope to our fractured nation is the freedom to seek and to find the truth for oneself. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." Our Quaker belief in the infinite worth and dignity of each individual means that each of us has the liberty to relate to God, to interpret the scriptures, and to discern the truth for ourselves. Our Quaker faith communities offer the opportunity for individuals to seek the truth for themselves rather than being persuaded by religious leaders, politicians, or the media, which may spout misinformation and conspiracy theories, which sow deeper divisions in our society. Certainly, when each person seeks truth for himself or herself, religious anarchy can ensue. However, I appreciate the philosophy that I read on Facebook that Max Carter places there. Max stated that our Quaker ways offer or provide guardrails, including the discernment of the community. Max said, "My sense is that early Quaker emphasis on seeking an integrity of personal experience trusted sacred writings and community insight, stressing, 'What canst thou say?' over parroting others' statements." In that same Facebook post, Max entreated us to seek a broad religious, political, and social literacy as key elements in choosing wisely among sources of information. And then finally, our Quaker testimonies of simplicity, peace, integrity, community, equality, and stewardship are acutely needed in our world. Although these testimonies represent our deeply held beliefs, none of the testimonies is set up as a creed. Our faith requires that we examine our own lives and relationships in light of these testimonies. We are answerable only to the Spirit as we continue to strive to meet the standards set forth in our testimonies. Our practice of writing queries aids us in self-reflection and in communal discernment. In his 1967 address to the Fourth Friends World Conference held at Guilford College, British friend Hugh Doncaster observed, "The world as I see it is dying, literally dying for lack of Quakerism in action." Like Doncaster, I believe that Quakers have much to offer a wounded world. Last August, Robin Moore, Executive Secretary of the Friends World Committee for Consultation, brought the keynote address to the annual gathering of the North Carolina Fellowship of Friends. She suggested that when the pandemic ends, people will flood our houses of worship, seeking spiritual nurture and a sense of community. She said there will be people who come because they are looking for God, not because of social standing, not because of parents, not even because of friends' social justice work, although that will be a fruit. But she says that is not really what holds Quaker congregations together. Robin believes that people will come into our houses of worship because they are looking for community with other people who are authentic, honest, imperfect, and sharing their lives. Will we be ready? If there is an influx, what are we doing to prepare to meet the needs of the people who have suffered months of isolation and often desolation? How will we make ourselves known to the wider community? How will we welcome others into our fellowships? And I appreciated so much Margaret's words this morning, outlining that we do welcome everyone, regardless of all that list of things that Margaret shared. How will we build on our technology skills, the ones that we have used during the pandemic, to stay connected to each other? And I'll mention that at Jamestown, and I'm guessing at New Garden Friends, we have had lots of people who have joined us from other states and even other countries. We have a young man who joins us from Ottawa, every Sunday, and we have a couple who joins us from Brazil as often as they can. So how will we use technology as we move into this new future? How will we create inclusive, loving communities? How will our Quaker faith shape our participation in building a better future for everyone? These are some of the giants in the land that we face. And like Hugh Doncaster, I believe that the world is dying for the lack of Quakerism in action. Having been a member of a liberal branch of Quakers all of my life, I am well aware that we are not very good at evangelism. We are reticent about sharing our faith. However, I read this allegory on a social media site that illustrates an approach that we might take to spreading the good news of our Quaker faith. It seems that a farmer was trapped under a 1-ton bale of hay. When the rescuers arrived, he begged them just cut the strings holding the bale together. However, his voice was so soft from the lack of a deep breath that he couldn't be heard. So the rescuers struggled, trying to lift that 1-ton bale of hay. Finally, 4 firemen and 2 burly police officers arrived. The farmer was close to death. The 6 strong men were finally successful in moving the bale of hay off of the farmer. He was grateful for the rescue, but he observed that if they had only cut the strings, the bale of hay would have separated into millions of individual pieces of hay, each of them weighing almost nothing. As we face giants in the land in the future, we would do well to remember this story. We just need to remind ourselves to cut the strings. Facing an unknown future and bringing others into the fold of our Quaker faith may seem insurmountable. However, if we address the needs of one person at a time, we may be surprised by how many people, how many individuals we draw into our society, and how profound our witness may be in a hurting world. On December 1st of 2020, I thoroughly enjoyed an interview on NPR's show 1A. Emmanuel Acho, a former linebacker who played in the National Football League, was interviewed by Sasha Ann Simons about a series of videos that he created entitled Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Acho observed that just because we can't do everything, we are not excused from doing anything. He likens the struggle to combat systemic racism with a game of dominoes. Each uncomfortable conversation may impact one person. That idea made sense to me. If each of us makes a contact with one person to share the good news of our Quaker faith, we may be surprised by our impact on a wounded world. We may be able to bring healing one person at a time. So as we move into 2021, which giants in the land will you address?